podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome to the 1905 podcast, home of the world champions, Chelsea. Each week, Joe and I bring you our unfiltered takes on the highs, the lows, and everything in between, following the Blues from Gate 13 of the Matthew Harding stand. Let's hit the notes. Welcome back to the 1905 podcast and an international break special, I guess we call it. It feels like, Joe, we haven't played in ages, doesn't it, Chelsea? But how are you? How have you found the break?
I've actually found some time to do some other things, mate. Yeah, family stuff, some house chores, bits and bobs that I desperately need to do. I haven't got around to all of it, of course, but yeah, I think it's just been nice to actually have a week off. I mean, I like you, I hate missing Chelsea games, but I think that, yeah, that little break from the Premier League for a little while, and because we were sort of sick in second and third for a while, I thought, let's just stay there for a bit longer if we can.
So true. So it has been relentless as well, the number of games, isn't it? And it will be relentless, obviously, going all the way to Christmas, which we'll talk about shortly. But yeah, a little break when you're nicely off the back of a good win and sat nice in the league is not a bad time to do it. So today's pod is split into three parts. One, we've got a couple of listener questions to answer. So thank you for sending those in. We'll do that. Then we're going to talk through the upcoming fixtures and how we think we're going to try and forecast basically how Chelsea will perform in the final games of 2025. And then we're going to look forward to the Burnley game in part 3 on Saturday lunchtime. So we'll start with the listener questions. And Joe, I'm going to give this first one to you to answer. And it's from Russell Banton. Thank you, Russell. Do you think Chelsea should buy in January? And if you could pick one realistic signing, who would it be? Joe?
Well, personally, I'm going to be really boring here. I'm sorry to say this and say I'm going to say we don't need anyone. I just feel as though with the financial landscape the way it is at the moment, with us needing to sell players in the summer and stuff, I just think that buying another player now, even though I think we could do with maybe another striker or another centre half, we've mentioned this many, many times before, the club are not going to budge on this. They seem hell-bent on buying more 16-year-olds. They bought another guy midweek, a 16-year-old boy. Forgive me because I don't know his name. The model doesn't seem to be behind experience or a Mark Gay, for example. It's not going to happen, I don't think, this time around. I hope I'm wrong. It could be that Chelsea go and surprise me. I just think from my own outlook on the team at the moment, I think we're doing quite well. And I know I had a bit of a rant after the Sunderland game. I think that's fair enough. You're a supporter, you can get pissed off with stuff. But I just think that overall, when I look back at it on the Wolves match after the Wolves game, I thought we've actually had a really good 6 weeks. And bringing in someone now to sort of upset the apple cart, as it were, I think Garnacho has sort of upset the apple cart a little bit by bringing him in the way he did. I think one or two wingers maybe have been put out by him. But he has actually done very, very well. As we know, we've got Esteval growing on the other side with Neto, and Neto sort of places maybe a little bit under pressure. Maybe not right away, but I think going forward after this season, it could be if he continues to grow at that rate. Enzo's had a massive improvement, a huge improvement in the centre of midfield. I think the two centre halves, even though we are critical of that area, Fofana and Chalobah, Achampong have done really well. Yes, I'm not a fan of Tosin. Everyone knows that. Desassi, not really. But I think at the moment, I believe Cole will come back at the end of the season. I just think that there's a lot of good going on. Also, the goalkeeper we know with Mike Penders that's going to be their guy. Hopefully next season, possibly the season after. We think maybe next year. And he's had a great season at Strasbourg, or having a great season at Strasbourg. So I think at the moment, I just think that more and more players coming into the team only upsets somebody else. And I think that we have enough currently with the way we're playing to certainly finish in the top 4. And I think that is their goal for the season. Even though as fans, we want to win the league. I think that is where the club will stay. I don't think they'll buy anybody. But again, Chelsea always surprise you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm with you, actually. I think the January window is one to use if you've got problems, isn't it? It's the classic, like, we've got bad injuries and striker position, we need to do something, or you've got players coming in and out. But I think actually, if you're a club who can wait until the summer, you're generally better placed, don't you? There, so I think I'm with you. Although I'd take a cut price Mark Gay if it was offered to us, but like you say, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not me saying don't buy anybody. Like, if Mount Gay's available to buy for, let's just argument say, I don't know, 20 million quid, I mean, you'd be mental not to buy him. I'm not suggesting we shouldn't do that, but I don't know the transfer market. I'm just sort of I'm sitting here now thinking who could come in and improve this side. I mean, the fullbacks seem very good. Reece James has had a good season. Gusto is improving every week. Kukurea, we know he's world class. Okay, Hato has been hit and miss. Really good game against Liverpool. Very poor game against Karabag. But I still think, he's obviously got loads of room to grow. So again, you're just adding another body into that group. Obviously, you've got Andre Santos, Caicedo, Enzo, Lavia is an issue. We know he's never fit. But I just think that the squad overall has been very, very good. I suppose you could argue, as silly as it sounds, if you're a good backup goalkeeper, I mean, if you could find someone, a free transfer, Mark Schwarzer style keeper, a free kicking around somewhere that maybe out of contract, a bit like Man City did with us with Bettinelli, someone that's hovering around that might do a job if Sanchez was injured or something. But that's a bit of a niche one.
So true, actually. That would be the one position, wouldn't it, now? Because if Sanchez got injured and you had to rely on Jorginho for a sustained number of games, you'd be really worried, wouldn't you?
Well, to be fair, Jorginho would do a job in goal, I think, over Jordan.
He'd be great passer out from the back. Right, my question that I'm going to answer is number 2, but Joe, you're going to have a view on my answers here, I think, was from Adam Stokes. And it's a great question. In your opinion, who is the most underrated player we've ever had at Chelsea, and who is the most overrated? Oh, I feel like I'm going to upset a few listeners here with my answer, particularly on overrated, because I think I've been wrestling with this all day, thinking, can I actually put this in public? Because it's controversial. Okay, underrated player. I'm going to go with Willian, the original Willian, actually. Not that he wasn't rated, but I think at the time he was always a second fiddle player. It was always Hazard and Mata and then Willian. And you always felt like he was a player that Chelsea fans wanted upgraded. Many have found that we know found him frustrating. But I just think when you look back now at just how good he was, you look at his touch was just unreal when you watch back the highlights. He had that season where he couldn't miss a free kick. His free kick taking was unbelievable. His numbers, obviously, I looked at his numbers before the pod. He scored 63 goals and 58 assists. So that's 121 goal involvements in 330 odd games for Chelsea. So pretty good record, 1 in 3. And the thing that really got me was the Frank Lampard season when he came back to the club as manager and had this group of youngsters basically who had the transfer ban. And if you remember, Willian just really stood up that season, I thought. When Eden Hazard had obviously gone, we went into that run after COVID and he became the penalty taker, scored just really important goals, really big performances. And I look back at him and think, I'm not sure myself as a fan at the time and many others looking back probably appreciated just what a good player he was. And when he then went on, obviously, we went to Arsenal, but then he went to Fulham in particular. I've seen so many Fulham players just come out and say, oh, he was a joke. Even at that age, he was still by far the best player at the club. So yeah, he's my underrated player. The overrated player, I need to premise this with the fact that the player I'm about to say is someone I think was brilliant, and I really, really rated him, and I think he's great. But back in the day of this era, I feel like when you spoke to Chelsea opposition fans, and this is the era of original Mourinho classic team. And we had obviously Petr Cech, John Terry, Lampard, Drogba. And the number of opposition fans who, when you talk about who's the one Chelsea player you'd want in your team, they wouldn't go for those names. More often than not, the amount of people that said, oh, if there's one player I'd take is Essien. And Essien was a brilliant player. I can see Joe's face. He's got a face of shock. I thought Essien was a great player. Clearly, he was brilliant. But when he gets put in the conversation for like greatest ever Chelsea 11 and things like that, I just don't think he's there for me. Like, I look at the players that we had that era, like he didn't get close to Lampard or Drogba in my mind. I think now we're seeing what like Casado's doing in the team and what N'Golo Kante did. I personally think those two were just a little bit above Essien, in my view. I thought Essien was brilliant and he could play anywhere. He could play right back. He'd do a good job. He was great. But I think he often gets put in the bracket one level above, in my opinion, where he should be. But Joe, you did a face of slight dismay when I said that. So what's your view on those two?
Oh, let's start with Willian. No, I sorry. I fully agree with Willian. He gets a lot of stick, weirdly. I find it baffling, I'll be honest. I mean, wingers as a rule don't always track back. Wingers as a rule don't always do the dogged hard work. But do you know what? Willian had moments that I can remember watching a game. Forgive me, I have no idea it was against now. It was a home game, and I got sent this clip by a Fulham fan, funnily enough, years and years and years ago, of course. And Willian was just strutting around, literally not chasing back. He didn't care. I'm sure it was a game, maybe the season sort of fizzled out for us, whatever. But it was embarrassing. Like, he was really, really bad. A professional athlete doing that was really poor, noticeably poor. But I think, like you said there about the goal involvements, I can only remember good things of Willian. He seemed to score so many of the same goal, didn't he? That little step over and wallop into the corner. He did it so many times. The most famous one probably against Spurs once or twice. Once in the semi-final of the FA Cup. And I remember doing it at the new ground when we won 2-0. I'm a massive fan of Willian, and I love his song. His song is one of the best songs we've ever come up with. But no, that's not reason to like him. I think he really has been a stalwart, and I agree with you about stepping up and actually sort of taking charge of that era when we had the transfer ban. I couldn't disagree. I couldn't agree more with that. SCN, right? I know what you're saying. I think you're saying he's overrated because he's in the bracket of Makelele, Kante, and Caicedo. So I can sort of see where you're coming from. He gets a lot of credit for hitting a 40-yard rocket against Arsenal that bent round the corner flag and came back into the far post. And obviously that goal is replaced everywhere. Anytime you go on Instagram, you can probably find it. I think there's a lot more overrated players. I think that's a bit harsh, if I'm honest. That's just my personal opinion. Listen. It's not for me to say. It's your opinion, and you're entitled to it. I think if I was choosing an underrated player, I would look at someone like Gary Cahill, Solomon Kalou, Jonathan Mikel. That they probably be, and that's all sort of similar era. I think they'd be my underrated players. Overrated, off the top of my head, I can't really think of one. Maybe as the pod goes on, I'll maybe come up with one a little bit later on. But yeah, I know what you're saying with SCN. I just think that maybe you're being a little bit harsh on him there.
Oh, it's incredibly harsh. And I mean, to be honest, overrated is really subjective by its nature, isn't it? Like, what does it mean? I had to try and pick someone who I thought was rated incredibly highly that I felt was maybe one level lower, but no, I think it's and Gary Cahill's a great shout as well. A really good shout. All right, don't kill me for that, and please do email us at hello@1905podcast to tell me that I'm an idiot, and give us your answer to that question, and we will read it out on the next pod because they're interested and really, really good questions. So thank you for that, Adam Stokes. Appreciate it. Right, after the break, we are going to forecast Chelsea's final games of 2025. Okay, welcome back to the 1905 podcast. We just lost a listener called Michael Essien, I believe, in the first half, but sorry about that, Michael. Still love him. Do love the guy. Right, we are going to look forward to the crazy number of fixtures that Chelsea have coming up in the rest of this year. So we have 3 more games in November, and then a mammoth 8 games in December. It is the season for football. We're just going to do a really simple win, lose, draw. Joe and I go through these games, and we will basically forecast the number of points we think we're going to get from the games, and we will might even put it on our Instagram and reflect back at the start of the year and see how we actually did versus what we said. So let's start with the Saturday lunchtime game, Joe. We'll go alternate, shall we? So you can go first on this one. Burnley away on Saturday lunchtime. What did Chelsea get?
So do you just want literally win, lose or draw?
Yeah, keep it short and sharp.
Win.
Very good. I'm going to also agree that we will win that. Although, as we'll speak about later, I don't think it's going to be as easy as people think. Let's do Champions League. So then we have Barcelona at home in the midweek. Oh, that's a huge game, isn't it? That's like a proper Champions League fixture. The memories of that game. Wow. I'm going to go first on this one, and I'm going to say that Chelsea are going to win. Joe, we're going to beat Barcelona.
I agree, but this isn't going to be a Chelsea whitewash winning thing here. I do think we might do it at home.
Yeah, there we go. We're going to win the league, aren't we? Okay, Chelsea home to Arsenal on the following Sunday. It's your turn to go first on this one.
I think we get a very positive draw.
Arsenal. I think we're going to lose, you know. I don't know why. I've just got a bad feeling.
Gabriel's injured.
I think it's because I really started to think that this Arsenal team was going to win the league, and I can just see it. Remember, though, they beat us a few years ago. I think it was the Graham Potter year, and they beat us on 1-0 on a corner, and it was a really depressing game. I think Gabriel might have scored or something like that. I've got a bad feeling that they'll do this on a set piece and nick a win, but hopefully I'm wrong. But I'm going to put a defeat for that one. We then have a lovely game in the midweek, Leeds United away, a tasty Wednesday night game up in Leeds. I'm going to say that we're going to respond to that Arsenal game with a win. What are you saying, Joe?
I agree. We're good on the road. I think we'll win.
Swim. And then a tough game the weekend that follows at Bournemouth.
I think it's going to be a
Joe?
defeat.
First defeat from Joe. I'm gonna say we're gonna draw that one. So we're leveling up at the moment in terms of points, but yeah, that is a tough game. It's a tough run of games because then the next game is another away game, which is at Atalanta in the Champions League. I'm gonna say that we are going to draw there.
Yep, draw for me.
Then we have Everton at home, which we know we have an incredible record against them at home, don't we? And I'm going to say we're going to continue that run with a nice win.
I was going to say the same thing. Yep, we have a great record against them. A win.
Quite looking forward to going to their new stadium, actually, and hopefully start well there so that we can put the Goodison Hoodoo to bed officially. Cardiff City away in the League Cup on the 16th of December.
Weirdly, I think we're going to put a sort of strange team out there, and I think we might come unstuck with the amount of games. I'm going to say we're going to lose on pens.
I think we're going to win. I think we'll find a way to win. And then another tough game, Newcastle away, lunchtime kickoff. My turn to go first. We've got a funny record, haven't we, St James's in recent years?
A shit record.
Yeah, that's another way to put it. It's a shit record, isn't it? Last year, 10 men, Nicholas Jackson, 20th of December, a week before Christmas. I think we'll get a draw.
Ordinarily, I think because they're playing quite poorly, they may improve by that point. I think we might nick a draw, but it wouldn't surprise me for a loss. But I think I don't see us winning there. I'll go for draw.
And Villa at home on the 27th of December. We're going to that one together, Joe, which means, of course, we'll win. What are you saying?
Draw.
Draw. Oh. And then the final game of 2025. Another home game on the 30th of December against Bournemouth at home. What are you saying?
I think we reverse our loss that I predicted earlier. I think we win that one, but it'll be smelly, some ugly 1-0, 2-1 dog fight.
I'll add that in the asterisks. I'm going to say we're going to win as well. That is so we played them twice in the space of a few weeks, which is interesting. Okay, so I'll tally all that up and let a report back, and I'll add it to our Instagram, and you guys can track how incredibly wrong we are with our predictions. But on reflection and talking those games through, it's an interesting set of games, isn't it? A lot of tricky trips, tricky away games in there, and like some, yeah. I think we sort of said it on the last pod, didn't we? That the league table is absurd at the moment in terms of how tight it is. You would expect over the next 5-6 weeks, by the time you go into the new year, it's going to look a bit more normal, and really how Chelsea perform in this set is going to really define that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the Champions League is the most, well, not the most interesting, but it's an interesting thing because of the way we've left it. The Carabao draw is not ideal. We absolutely have to beat Barcelona or Atalanta. We have to win one of those. Could we get away with a win and a loss? Possibly. I just feel, I agreed with you with a win against Barcelona. Of course, they could turn up and beat anybody on their day. We know that. I think we have a good record against Barcelona at home. They don't like playing on our pitch. Never have done. It's a different set of players than the ones we were used to back in the day. But I just feel it could be one of those Liverpool games. We sort of galvanise ourselves. I think Chelsea do have a very good record in Europe, very good record at home in Europe as well. I can see that being a good game for us. The Atalanta trip, again, I think if we get a good win against them, a draw is a good result against Atalanta. And again, the Premier League games, I think there's a good mixture there between us of mainly wins. I think there's the occasional draw and the occasional defeat. I think that if we are going to be serious about finishing the top 4-3 positions, then you can't afford to lose too many. And I think if you lose to Bournemouth, for example, like I predicted in the away game, you certainly have to beat them in the home game. Otherwise, you're going to drop down the table. So, yeah, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. And I'll tally it up and put it on Instagram. But I think if we were to do pretty much what we both predicted, which kind of evened out by the end, we'd probably be around third or fourth, wouldn't we, the end of that mix? Although it sounded depressing when we were talking it through, but I don't think it's as bad as it felt at the time. No, it's going to be a very interesting run. I think we'll get a sense of just where this team is at, won't we, over this period. So, yeah, let's talk after the break about the next one in that run, which is Burnley away on Saturday lunchtime. Okay, Burnley away after an international break. We did this before it was the Forest game, wasn't it? When I looked at the number of players Chelsea had in international duty versus Forest. This time we do have a lot away. We have 14 players actually on international duty from the first team squad. Burnley have 10. So not a huge difference. I'll talk through in a little bit what the Chelsea players have done on international duty briefly, just so we can get a feel for kind of where we think the squad will be at come Saturday lunchtime. Let's talk a bit about Burnley first, actually, Joe. I sort of forgot, actually, when I was looking at the players in international duty. I was like, oh, I forgot they had Armando Broja, easy for me to say, and obviously Leslie Ugachukwu, so a couple of ex-Chelsea boys. I think Broja might have got injured again.
He did.
In the international break, so he's probably not going to play against us, is he? But Ugachukwu has basically been an ever starter for them. You and I were talking about this off pod and looking at their fixtures this season. Now they sit the 17th in the league. So at first glance, they've not done great. They've won 3, drawn 1, lost 7. But as you and I were saying, if you look at the games they've lost this season, they've only played 11. They've all been pretty tough games. So the games they've lost, they lost at Spurs on the opening day. You know, not everyone wins at Spurs every time like us. They lost at Spurs. They've lost at Man United. They lost at home to Liverpool. Correct me if I'm wrong, that was the ridiculous 95th minute penalty, wasn't it, I think?
Yep.
From Salah. So very unlucky in that one. They lost at Man City 5-1, which is the only battering they've had all season, really. They lost to Aston Villa, tough place to go. And they lost at home to Arsenal. And then last time out, they lost at West Ham. They're obviously have a bit of a resurgence themselves. So actually, all of the games they've lost have been to the bigger sides and games they would have expected to probably lose. And they've picked up good wins at home to Sunderland and Leeds. Again, big games for them, obviously. And then they won away at Wolves. So Scott Parker, the manager again, another ex-Chelsea boy. It won't be easy, I don't think. It won't be easy. Another player I completely forgot they've got is Kyle Walker. Have you seen any of them this season?
I'll be honest, not loads. I was just going to say they got a very good point at Nottingham Forest. They've lost 7 games, but 4 of those losses have only been by 1 goal. They've had lots of 3-2s, 2-1s. They seem to be able to score a lot of goals, but they do concede a lot of goals. So I think the way Chelsea play away from home, I think they do seem a bit freer. They don't seem quite as tight. I think when Chelsea play at the Bridge at the moment, if they're not winning at half time, the crowd is getting a little bit restless. So Chelsea, from a Chelsea perspective, I think they will enjoy the fact they're going to Turf Moor and playing. Our record at Turf Moor is fantastic. Now, I hate being the person that says, "Oh, we got a great record," and suddenly then it goes Pete Tong. Chelsea have of course got to be careful against any Premier League teams. We know from the Sunderland game 2 or 3 weeks ago what happened there. I just think that we are in a pretty good place. The squad seems fairly fit. I know there's 1 or 2 slight knocks and needles, but I think we are a team full of confidence at the moment. I don't see any real chinks in our armour in terms of the way we're playing going forward. Defensively, yes, we have our situations dealing with long throws and corners, etc. I don't know if Burnley do that. I presume they look at it now and again. They seem the sort of team that might do something along those lines. So we have to be very careful of that. But I think the way we can attack teams in the counter-attack, and I hope that we do a bit for the goal that we scored against Wolves when Garnacho did that 3 or 4 touches and crossed it for Neto. I'm really hoping to see a little bit more of that from Chelsea in these run of games, because you like to think the manager would look at those patches of play and go, do you know what? We could tear teams apart if we play it right. So I think Chelsea are in a good place. I think, like I said, we've had a good run of fixtures. We've done very well. That stupid loss against Sunderland, which was, other teams have lost to them since, I know, but it just felt like a really bad result on the day. But I think other than that, we've been fairly flawless. So I'm not too bothered by this fixture. I think Burnley will cause us a few problems, of course, but I think we'll ride those out and hopefully we pick the right team and we can get the lap off the mark as well.
Yeah, it'd be good, wouldn't it? It'd be the sort of game where you look at him, we'll talk about our team pick, but you're looking at someone like him thinking this is where you look at it as made for you. Should get a bit of space in behind. You're looking for him to be a bit of a battering ram and go and get his first goal or goals for the club. In terms of the players that are in international duty, I said there were 14, but actually what's been quite good is they've had mixed minutes. So Reece James, for example, played 90 minutes in England's first game against Serbia, but completely rested against Albania. And Trev Chalobah didn't play a minute in either game for England. So both of those fully rested. Esteval, quite well publicised this point, but he played against Senegal at the Emirates, scored and got man of the match, and by all accounts played very, very well. Obviously, João Pedro and Andrés Santos for unused subs. They play Brazil on Tuesday night in France. So I would imagine that the number of minutes and sort of how they come back on Wednesday will determine just how much minutes they get at the weekend. Because obviously Enzo Fernandez didn't go because of his knock. Casado did go and, as always, has done a lot of travel. So he played 90 minutes against Canada and plays on Tuesday night in New York against New Zealand. So we'll talk about the team in a minute, but you'd think that he would be the one that they'd be a little bit more wary of, considering the games that we've got coming up. And a shout from El Augusto, who we talked to the last pod about the improvement that we've seen in him and a couple of really good performances recently. And he had a worldie for France. It was against Azerbaijan, fair enough, but he got a man of the match with 2 assists and played the whole game. So he's yeah, his resurgence continues, I guess. And then a few guys in the under-21s, Josh Achimpong and Tyreek George and Jamie Gittins all played 90 minutes actually, and Tyreek George scored for England as well. So plenty of players getting minutes, but hopefully not too many getting overrun. And at time of recording, we don't know what Casado will do on Tuesday night, but hopefully he maybe doesn't play the full 90. That would be handy. Gets one of his timely red cards. Let's go through the team that we've picked, Joe, for the game, and maybe we can talk through a couple of reasons why. Rob Sanchez in goal, obviously. Interesting that he's not playing for Spain at the moment, isn't it? Actually, he was in the squad at the start of the season. It seems strange that he's come out. But back four, we've gone with Reece James and Cucurella as the fullbacks. And again, to echo what we said in the pod, continue with Fofana and Chalobah just for a bit of continuity. They've got 2 Premier League clean sheets in a row. Let's keep it solid for a while, right?
Yep. Don't change it. I think we've asked for consistency. Look, this is Maresca. He's probably going to play Tosin. Let's be honest. But yeah, I think he hopefully has seen there's 2 clean sheets there, and you can only build on consistency. And yeah, you've got some big games coming up, so hopefully we can just kind of keep these boys rolling.
We've gone in the midfield. We've got Enzo Fernandez on the hope that it was just precautionary that he was left out of the Argentina squad, and he obviously has been playing very, very well. And then we've both put in Andre Santos in the middle on the basis that Casado's got all that travelling to do. We've got Barcelona and Arsenal coming up. If you can rest him in a game, then Burnley away is the one to do it in, isn't it? And then we've gone basically the same attack that played against Wolves. So Pedro Neto on the right, João Pedro behind Delap and Garnacho on the left. Obviously, again, following up from his fantastic display last time out. We'll always say there's a temptation, isn't there, to play Esteval, but he's the one who's had the travel. Neto got the international break off, so it kind of makes his decision, you'd have thought, fairly easy.
Yeah, I think we were discussing about Esteval. I think we are desperate to see him start. We know that, but I think I've listened to a few people of late talk about him, and maybe there is something to be said. It's his first season over. He is doing fantastically well, but also he is playing against defences that are shattered. So he's coming on after 60, 70 minutes. He's getting free run of people that are, how about Neto run them for the last 70. So he is kind of gaining a little bit of extra kind of credit, I suppose you could argue, for kind of coming on at a good time in the game. Equally, he has to still perform, and they don't call them subs now, they're called game changers, aren't they? So I think that Esteval is probably in the right position. I think Maresca's handling very, very well. It'd be very easy to throw him in. All I would say is this: if he continues to come on and score and assist and blow teams away, the call for him to start is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's whether or not Maresca can say, do you know what? No, I'm sticking to my guns. He's going to be an impact player for the rest of the season, unless Neto gets a bad injury or gets a hamstring or something. I still think that maybe he will be kept in kid gloves for a little while longer. Again, I still think he'll start Champions League games. I think he'll start League Cup games and things. It's just the league. Maybe they're just kind of just keeping it in sort of under kind of monitored spells. Like, I just think he needs to be kept fresh, and I don't think they should be sort of destroying him and throwing him in for every single minute. I think it's maybe a good decision to keep him on the bench.
Yeah. And that Barcelona game, it's made for him, isn't it? Like you talk about a big, he has that smell of like a big game player who's gonna absolutely relish a night like that. And I just wonder if they'd be tempted to hold him back and start him in a game like that. Ancelotti was not shy in his praise of him either. I don't know if you saw that, but he was along the lines of Brazil's future is in very good hands with Esteval. It was that bold, and obviously he got man of the match, by the way, along in the proper Brazil team. This was alongside like Vinicius Junior and Rodrigo and all the other guys. It was we've talked about him enough, but yes, he's not mucking around.
I suppose the only thing we haven't brought up here is Cole Palmer. Now, he was said to be back for the Barcelona and Arsenal games. Now, if he's going to be back for those games, of course he could just come in for them. Do you think he gets on the bench for Burnley, or is it too soon? If he's going to come on, maybe get 10 minutes. What do you think?
Dream, isn't it? That's the dream, that he's on the bench and you can if the game's comfortable, can give him 10, 15 minutes just to be back on the pitch, it would be massive. Again, they've been quite good, haven't they? And I'd say this current era of Chelsea, so under Maresca, not to rush players back. We've seen it obviously most often with the likes of Reece and Fofana and people like that. But I think they've generally been fairly cautious, and I think they probably will be with Cole as well. But yeah, I was a bit negative saying that, I think we might lose to Arsenal. Again, a difference maker like Palmer coming in, and then maybe Gabriel being injured, and maybe it can pitch the other way, can't it? Those big games are always so tight. So yeah, he will be massive in this run of games if we can get him fit. I'm almost in my head weirdly writing it off, because until he confirmed he's fit and he's on the pitch, you don't want to believe it, do you? But yeah, he'd just be massive.
No, I agree. I just wonder if they're going to surprise some people. So maybe he doesn't play at Burnley at all, and then suddenly he starts against Barcelona. I just got a funny feeling, because they can play games behind closed doors now. They've all got these abilities to do stuff like that. I know it's not the same as a Premier League match with the same intensity, but I just wonder if they're just going, do you know what, we have to beat Barcelona. Well, not have to. No, that's strong. Sorry. It would make life a lot easier if they did. And are they going to surprise Barcelona by putting Estevao and Palmer in the same team just to see how it goes and just let it? Because I think against Barcelona, they will be flair. They're a flair team. They will come at you. There'll be massive of gaps behind. I don't know. I just got a funny feeling we're going to see something special from Maresca soon, and he'll pitch them in the same team in a game we're not expecting. So I'm hoping it's Barcelona.
Yeah. I've got like a big smile on my face. I can't help but smile just for the idea of it, because it's going to be so fun to watch. Excellent. Okay, we'll wrap it there. Yeah, let's hope we're back after the Burnley game. Looking forward to that Barcelona game on the back of a great win. And yeah, remember, every little thing's going to be all right. See you next time. Those were the Chelsea notes for this week. If you enjoyed the podcast, do us a favour and share it with a fellow Blue. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a review wherever you're listening. Wherever you may be, stay carefree, and remember, every little thing's gonna be all right.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.